God, the initiator of names. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was formless and empty, with darkness over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. God saw that the light was good, and he separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. God said, "Let there be a vault between the waters to separate water from water." So God made the vault, and separated the water under the vault from the water above it. And it was so. God called the vault sky. And there was evening, and there was morning, the second day. God said, "Let the water under the sky be gathered to one place, and let dry ground appear." And it was so. God called the dry ground land, and the gathered waters he called seas. And God saw that it was good. Genesis 1:1-10. The questions about human name is how it originate. The answer is in the Bible. Why did God change the names of certain individuals in the Bible? What does it mean when God names and renames them? Considering this, I want to discuss the premise that the first name giver is God, as recorded in Genesis 1. In the act of creation described in Genesis, God names things. He calls the light day and the darkness night. This act of naming is intrinsic to God's creative power. By speaking, God brought order to his creation, and the world was formed as he named it. Thus, God is the first name giver. In the Bible, the names carry profound significance. For example, when God changed Abram to Abraham, it was not just a name change. Abram struggled to resist the world's temptations, but when God renamed him Abraham, he became the father of faith, even offering his son Isaac on Mount Moriah. Similarly, Jacob, whose name means deceiver, was renamed Israel, signifying the birth of the church and the victory in spiritual warfare. God's renaming reflected his plans and purposes, and the names symbolized their destinies. The history of Israel is one of spiritual warfare. While Abraham's descendants engaged in physical battles, they also represented the spiritual battles of God's people. For example, the name Israel is more than a designation. It encapsulates God's covenant with his people. Likewise, Noah's son Shem's lineage, specifically through Eber, is recorded in Genesis 10 as chosen. Eber's descendants, Peleg and Joktan, represent God's explicit covenant to the people and his implicit covenant to the community. The names in the Bible are not mere labels. They embody divine plans and destinies. That's why Adam's naming of the animals signifies the importance of understanding the meaning behind names. While Adam named his wife Eve, God referred to her a woman, which means the church, holding profound spiritual symbols. God's people must understand the significance of names. Improperly assigned names can misguide their lives, so that it's necessitating God's intervention to rename individuals. For example, Isaac's name was given by God before his birth. Even though it means laughter, he was granted his life by the name as God named him in the womb, granting life through that name. On the other hand, Ishmael, born from Hagar, Sarah's slave, was named by an angel who heard Hagar's prayer crying out to God, showing the contrast between divine purpose and human endeavor. This is evident in the names Jacob and Esau. Jacob, meaning heel grabber or deceiver, received his name from his father, while Esau, meaning red and hairy, was also named by his appearance. Yet God chose Jacob despite his deceitful life, while Esau, who despised his birthright, lived the shallowness of his name. These names reveal that people chosen by God, despite their flaws, are molded into his plan, while those not chosen, no matter how good their deeds are, find their efforts meaningless before God. Today's church must grasp the importance of names. After decades of studying the principles of names, I am convinced that people live according to their names. Even though we are born into our destinies beyond our control, is there a way to change that destiny? This question led me to study utterly and research the mysteries of names, focusing on the phonetics and sound waves of vowels and consonants. Through this study, I developed the principles of what I call the Korean Hangul system, which is naturally and scientifically well-formed language system of vowels and consonants. As a pastor and a researcher of names, my journey began with the genealogy of Jesus in the New Testament. To understand this, I had to delve into the Old Testament figures, discovering that their names were not merely labels, but encapsulations of God's will and providence. For example, David's name means beloved, and his life reflected God's love, ultimately leading to his role as an ancestor of Jesus. Names are more than designations. They shape lives and destinies. Similarly, in the sound waves of each name, energies that influence one's life, relationships, wealth, success, health, finance, and more. However, many fail to recognize this truth. Churches often dismiss the significance of names as superstition, yet the churches, more than any other institute, should appreciate their important role. Through names, we can glimpse God's providence. Pastors should deeply consider why God gave and sometimes changed the names of biblical figures. Names are not trivial. They reflect divine truth and understanding in order to lead us closer to God's plan. Let us take this to heart as we seek to align our lives with His will.